There's a lot of mistakes that beekeepers can make in the month of April or spring, first kind of part of spring, wherever you live. So I want to talk about that today. What are some of the mistakes that beekeepers can make early spring, how to avoid them? And I'm going to do it by answering a ton of questions that you asked me on my live stream last night that I didn't get a chance to get to. Henry says, I have one hive, double deep, one side of the bottom deep, two end frames have molded and the bees are staying away from that area. Do I need to do anything to clean that area, and with what? That's a good question, Henry. And all of you that are coming out of winter with your hive surviving winter, that's a great thing. Here's the deal. If bees are staying off of it, it tells you something. So in that case, I'm going to go ahead and replace those combs. I've done experiments in the last decade or two on this very subject, and I've been able to get bees to draw out, repair, clean up old moldy comb. I've showed you that in a video last week. However, if it's maybe something we don't even know or it's worse than we think, maybe bees will never do it. So I would get on that and just replace them. That's probably going to be your easiest thing to do. Glenn wants to know, what breed of queen do you recommend for docile bees? And Glenn, that's a good question. All of us want some happy bees that never sting us and they love us. Honeybees or Apis mellifera, they have a stinger because they have a lot of sweet golden honey to protect. And so there's a reason that they're that way. So it really isn't so much about the breed, although sometimes that can make a little bit of difference. But really you can have a calm or a more defensive bee in any breed. And so that's just something that you're going to have to work toward, maybe finding a way to raise your own queens. And you can raise queens from very calm, docile hives yourself and keep that going probably. So that's just going to be almost kind of the luck of the genetic pool that you draw from. Donnie wants to know, when you get a swarm, another spring question, how can you tell if they are bivouacs or staying? Now, if you're new to the bivouac term, that's a military term that describes a group staying in a temporary location. So when a hive first swarms, they hang out on a tree or something nearby before they go to their final home. And so in this case, how do you tell if they are bivouacs or staying? Normally, Donnie, they don't build any comb in the bivouac. They're just hanging out. That's your primary way of knowing. Now, occasionally, a bivouac gets stranded there. Maybe they lose their queen. They don't want to go. Something happens. If they stay there after days and weeks, they will start to survive and build comb there. But that's extremely rare. So bivouac, no frames, no comb, and the final home where bees are living, yeah, lots of frames, lots of comb. Monster Mead. Mead is a alcoholic beverage that has been around for a long time. Maybe the first alcoholic beverage, I think, and it's made with honey and yeast and water. So a lot of meaderies, you may have heard about that. I don't know if that's what his name means. Can you reuse frames that got slimed by hive beetles after they're frozen? I wouldn't try it. I have found bees don't like it. Yeah, I mean, if you want to experiment, my way is not the only way. But if you want to experiment and try and see, maybe it'll work out for you. But I would rather replace that. Michael, will bees utilize uncapped nectar this spring left from last fall? Thanks, David. Yeah, I mean, if it is fine, if it hasn't fermented or somehow during the winter it changed and bees don't like it. But normally, yeah, bees will either get rid of it, take it outside the hive, or they will use it. Hey, Mike, when making splits, is it a good idea to use 10 frame deeps with a solid board, making it a 5 frame, then moving it as they need more room to grow? Oh my goodness, that is such a great question. I can't wait to answer it. But first, let me encourage you to please come to my live stream on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. We always meet with hundreds of beekeepers, and I answer your questions like this live And I have giveaways, and we have a great community of beekeepers that love to chat with each other during the live stream. It's a lot of fun. And hang out with us on Thursday night. Hope you'll join us. Follow the link right here. Let's get back to answer this good question. Now that's called a follower board. You see follower boards more in top bar hives, horizontal Langstroth hives. You don't see them being used a lot in a 10 or 8 frame Langstroth hives. However, they are used. I have a good friend that uses them, and he lives by follower boards. And I have them over there. I can't get up and go get one, but I use them too. I made a video probably well over a decade ago explaining how if you get a new package that you could put them in a 5-frame nuke box and they grow really fast. And then after they fill up that 5-frame nuke box, you can move them over to a 10-frame. And in that video, I said, this is a neat way to do it because you can get bees to build up faster. So yeah, a follower board is doing the same thing. You put a follower board in a 10-frame deep box, you put all your new package over there on one side of undrawn comb, and then they build up really fast, and you can keep moving the following board. By the way, a following board, it's just like a board, and instead of a frame, it's a solid board. They can't build anything on it. In case you're wondering, well, what does he mean by follower board? And so it's just a way to kind of make the box smaller until they need that more room. It becomes a problem when you get distracted and you forget it's in there, or you misread it and they get too crowded in that little area and they swarm. A new package will swarm. You don't want to use this if you're getting a 5-frame nucleus, because already that 5-frame is ready to swarm. You're only doing it with undrawn comb, or I guess it would be drawn comb with nothing in it, and the bees need to build up. That's a good question. Yeah, it's not a bad idea, actually. Where can you get them? Most places, most big beekeeping stores sell them. Yeah, you can make your own. Just take the measurement of a frame and make your own. Beekeepers don't have to have resources. You just got to be resourceful to be a good beekeeper. All right, let's see. How can you tell if a queen is VSH as the queen breeder advertises? For if you've never heard of that term, VSH, Varroa sensitive hygienic. It means that the queen has some resistance or a way to reduce mites in their genetic makeup. And the only way you can tell is do mite test. And so maybe you have a hive that is not advertised as VSH and one that is. Do a mite test after a month on both of them and see if the VSH queen and her offsprings are reducing mites more than the other hive. Then you'll know. But it is hard to tell. There's no other way to know, really. Hey, Katie, I'm moving to a new location 9 hours away. I've been told to remove all the honey from my hives, 11 of them. When I moved them, I was told the honey would drip down and drown the bees. Are your any thoughts? Here's the deal. Are you talking about honey supers on top of your boxes? Or are you talking about honey from, I guess if it's dripping down, you're talking about the supers on top of the brood nest area. It'd be nice to get that off of there because it would reduce the weight of the bees. If it's capped over, it's not going to drip down. If it's nectar, it could drip down. I mean, if you're banging around bumps and you have a trailer with poor suspension or something and the hives are really jostling badly, it could. I'm not going to say it's not. It would be more uncommon, I think. I've moved a lot of hives, and so I've never seen that. But I would say if you want to err on the side of being cautious, maybe you should. That's going to be a lot of work. Yeah. Hey, Charlie, David, if you have to introduce a new queen to a hive with the candy side, how about when a queen hatches from a queen cell, how does she introduce herself? I think you left out the word, Charlie, to a hive with the candy side down, because then you make the comparison to a queen hatches from a queen cell. How does she introduce herself if the queen cell's facing down? I hope I'm reading that right. So I made a video and I tested it. You should watch this video. It's really cool. I'll try to leave a link in the description. But I did experiments with, is it better when you're introducing a new queen in a queen cage to let the candy side face down, sideways or up? And sideways was a winner. She just walks out faster. It doesn't really matter. Oh, by the way, your comparison is different because a queen cage, usually like a JZB plastic cage for a queen, has attendants in it. So does a Benton 3-hole cage. Usually they have attendants. Those attendants die pretty quickly, long before the queen does. And people fear that those attendants, those are just worker bees taking care of the queen in the queen cage. When they die, they may plug the entrance that's facing down. The dead bees drop down and plug the hole and the queen can't get out. Whereas if it's facing up, dead bees drop and then the hole's still clear to go. On a queen cell, on a frame, there's no attendants in the cell with her. She just kind of cuts her way out of the bottom of it and she walks out. We're learning a lot today. If you're still feeding sugar water, should I wait to put on the honey supers? Yeah, you don't want sugar water in your honey supers. So plan that accordingly. Once you see maybe nectar flow, dandelion, whatever signals to you in your area that the bees are going out and gathering nectar, stop feeding, put your honey supers on. Hey, Jeff, how do you know when you can do a split? I see lots of drones in Denver, Colorado. I personally make my splits about the time that my bees would swarm naturally. For me in Illinois, that's usually the end of April, the first part of May. And another indication, like you said, you do need to see drones, but you have drones long before you have queens. And so that's not always the best thing to go by. You can still have cold weather with drones and still not have queens yet. So I would go by nectar sources in your area and what bees are going to do naturally. Listen to some old beekeepers and ask them in your area, hey, when do hives generally swarm here in Denver, Colorado? And then they'll tell you, and then you can kind of use that as, close proximity. Yeah. Question, can you move the hive for winter and they be okay in the spring? Yeah, normally we move bees in the wintertime. I'm moving my bees from my beautiful apiary yard down there. It's too windy. It's too far away for me. And I'm moving it all back here behind a berm and everything. And I was going to do that this winter. And I've got about half of them moved. I've still got a lot of work to do. And so now it may be a little bit of an issue. They get a little confused that they start foraging. But in Illinois, there's nothing to forage on yet. I still got time to move them, but I'm going to wait until it cools off again. And it will. But yeah, you can do that. You don't have so much foraging going on in the wintertime. So when you move them in the winter, when spring comes, they take new orientation flights because they're new foragers. Jeff, I have an overwintered double deep nuke here in Michigan. Oh, congratulations. That's not easy to do. Good for you. I want to move the bees to a 10-frame box. Do I keep the brood frame stacked or put them in a single deep 10-frame boxes? Ooh, good questions. I think, Jeff, you could do either one, really. I would tend to want to put them all in a deep, one single deep. Because, when you start a new package, you want the package to go this way and not this way. So you don't start a new package by putting all your boxes in there and then putting your package in the bottom. You start with a package or a nuke in one single deep. Kind of like that idea, especially where you're located, because in Michigan, it's still got some cold weather probably coming periodically. So tighter would be better in case it is a cold snap. Hey, Jimmy, bee package pickup tomorrow, which would be today, because I got this question yesterday. Any recommendations? Should I keep in package a few extra days to get used to the queen? Absolutely no. Jimmy, don't do that, please. And here's why. When we make our packages up, they're in the package several days before they finally are in the hands of the beekeeper. And anyway, they're going to be introduced gradually when you install them. You still don't just throw your queen in there with them. They still have to eat. You remove the candy plug from the queen cage, and then they have to eat through the candy. So Go ahead and install them. Don't wait. People wait. Oh my gosh. I'm worried about people that wait to install packages. I have dealt with and sold packages for a long time. And the longer you wait, the worse off the bees get. That's just all it is to it. I know we're used to being able to go to the grocery store and, you know, there's milk and it has an expiration date, or there's a loaf of bread and you think, okay, it's on the shelf. It can stay on the shelf. Bees aren't like that. As soon as you package them up, that's not how bees live. We do that to transport them to the beekeeper, and then you need to get them out of there as soon as possible. Are the chances really slim to none of getting honey later in the year from an April package? Well, we always say, to be on the cautious side, we say that don't expect honey from the first year of packaged bees, or maybe even a nuke. That's because they're taking all the nectar they're bringing in. They have to ingest it, and they have to eat about, let's say, 8 pounds of nectar to make 1 pound of wax to build out their comb on the frames. And so a lot of the incoming nectar can't be stored. It's used to build comb. Second year, they've got their comb built so they can pack it away. However, having said that, been plenty of my customers who have reported upwards of 100, 200 pounds of honey that they've produced on a package the first year. Depends on your nectar source in your area, how fast your bees grow. A good natural bear deterrent, move to a different place without bears like Illinois, or you can get a bear fence. I think that's probably the best thing. I go to a lot of conferences in bear territory. There's none here. And they always have a presenter talking about how to deal with bears. It's always a bear fence. Bear fence. David, I live 1 hour south of Indianapolis, Columbus area. My bees are consuming lots of 1-to-1 liquid. Can I feed too much right now? People ask that question a lot. Can I feed too much? I think it's possible. Sure, bees can get honey bound, nectar bound, pollen bound, brood bound. They can get all that. You know, I'm not going to really worry about it. I've never worried about that. I have not. I feed bees all the time when I'm not collecting any honey from my honey supers. I feed them, and I've not seen it. Bees are pretty smart, knowing that, hey, we just shouldn't fill this up. We need to leave room for mama to lay some eggs. I mean, it's possible, but that's something I don't worry about it. I know you made a video on this. Is there any new information on European foul brood you spoke about showing up? I'm not sure what you're asking. European foul brood is a potential to show up at any time in your beehive if you're in an area where that bacteria can be carried in or transported, or yeah, it can happen. So I don't know of any new information. It's been a problem forever. Yeah. Hi, David. You recently commented on the older video that your horizontal hive didn't make it through winter. Do you know what happened? Starvation, froze, moisture. I'm building one in May. That's it. Okay. Well, Kyle, the reason my horizontal hives don't do well in my climate in Illinois is because I live on the prairie where it's cold and windy. And bees, in their natural habitat, like a tree, they build their comb this way in the tree so the cluster can move this way and stay within the comb. And they can just move, the cluster can move up. In a horizontal hive where the frames are like this, I feel that it's difficult for the cluster to move because they have to either go up here, which that would be difficult, or to go down out of the comb and move that way to get back up into a new area, you know? And I think that's why my bees in horizontal hives don't do well. I've tried, 2 years now? My horizontal hive has died. And I think my little round hive, this horizontal, died. I've tried, what's the other one called? The top bar hive that's horizontal. I've ran those way back, and they couldn't survive winter. But the vertical hives do well. So that's my suspicion for sure. It's all about how they can cluster and the cluster can move. Yeah. All right. Working through these questions. A lot of spring questions. A lot of chances to make some mistakes. So hopefully This video is helping you guys not make those spring mistakes. Now, by the way, Bobblehead David is here to help you guys remember to subscribe to my video, to my channel. I appreciate it a lot. And yeah, click on the bell so you'll be notified each time I make a new video. Johnny, good evening, David. Thanks for all you do. Well, you're welcome, Johnny. Should I leave my overwintered honey supers on the hive this time of year, take them off? I haven't checked them yet due to queens not being available. Oh, well, that's good that you've learned. You probably heard me say that. I don't go out there and heavily inspect my hive in fear of killing my queens before I can do anything about it. So I don't like to do that either. I'd leave my honey supers on, but once your bees are going out and getting new nectar, bring new nectar in, and you see that they have plenty of food in their brood area, I'd take those honey supers and harvest them, make room for fresh honey. Louise, I'm in North New Brunswick, Canada. I'm wondering when to start feeding syrup. It's still cold here with snow. Winter is really long here. Yeah, I get it. Winter can be long. That's a very good question. It's not so much that, like, I'm making this video from Illinois, so you don't really want to say, oh, I can't watch his video because he lives in Illinois. That's different from where I live in Canada. The way to look at it is, I'm giving you advice on bees. And so here it is, no matter where you live, Illinois or Canada, you want to start feeding your bees when the nighttime temperatures, are getting no longer dropping down into freezing. Certainly, the warmer it is at night, the better you are at feeding your bees 1-to-1. So the sugar water does need to be above 50 degrees Fahrenheit for the bees to really take it down. So if that helps you out any, you want to use temperature, you want to use not so much the time of the year, but the time of the year changes the temperature. But you want to look at the forecast and say, oh, it's going to be only a loaded, last night it got down to 50 degrees here and 80 degrees today, Fahrenheit. And so we've got cold weather coming in the next few days, and that's going to change things. I don't know how cold it's going to get. It's only, barely, what is it? I'm a few days away from April the 1st now. So April can still be a cold month. Remember, I've told you guys here in Illinois, it has snowed in May before. Yeah, maybe not now. Maybe climate change or warming up or something is different. I don't know, but maybe it won't, but who knows, right? Yeah. Received my Burns feeder. Thank you. Yeah, the Burns feeder looks like this. And it's something that I invented and created many years ago that beekeepers love. You put it on your hive. It works really good in the spring because it comes with the feeder jars with the holes already in it. A lot of you ask about what size holes and all. And then it has a place if you're in love with using pollen patties, you can put pollen patties. But put it on top of your new package that you get, your nuke that you get, or an overwintered colony, and you want to feed them before the flowers bloom, put your jars here, and then put another deep or super and your top cover on it. So I'm glad that you're utilizing that. These are available if you need those from our website at honeybeesonline.com. So to answer your question about this, the weather has been around mid 40s to 50s during the day, but mid to low 30s at night. Should I continue with the winter bee kind, or will they be okay with liquid feed? You didn't really say where you live, but I'm going to guess you're right on the margin of doing either, right on the border of doing either one. So here's what I do. I try to project out when I'm going to have dandelions. And when they start blooming, which is generally the middle of April, I back up 42 days, and that's when I start feeding 1-to-1 sugar water. Because that way I can get foragers. It takes 42 days for my foragers from egg to flying, and that way I have foragers when the dandelions pop. All right. Hey, Mark, how long will bees work without a queen? I was looking for her, couldn't find her in the hive. Could she have been on her maiden flight? Seen very few drones and very little capped brood, no eggs or larvae. I have a lot of questions, Mark, to be able to answer your question, but where do you live? Are you in a very, like if you're, let's just say you're in Illinois or north of me, and you couldn't find your queen anywhere, it would be unlikely that she would be on a mating flight for me in Illinois. I would have to have warmer weather. It's a little too early yet. We're probably, even with a warm up, even if it warms up more than usual, we're still weeks away from this. Queen's mating and drone congregation areas and all. I don't know where you live, but let's say you live in a warmer climate. Yeah, she could be on a mating flight if you're in the deep south, maybe, because they're already swarming down there. So she could be on a mating flight. Wait 10 days and check it out. Wait 10 days and see what happens. Daniel, if you need more honey super frames drawn out, do you add them first, last, or mix them in with drawn out comb? Well, that's a good question. I've heard people use all of these techniques, like interspersing undrawn honey super frames in between the ones that are drawn out. I think that would work fine. I just make it easy on myself. I top super. I put another super on top of one that's almost, well, if I get about 5 frames drawn out, I'll put another super on. But yeah, you can use any of these techniques. And I'll tell you, Daniel, please don't rely on other people to tell you what to do. I suggest you try it and keep notes and say, wow, that really worked out great, or that was a failure. And then you know. It can be different for every hive. It can be different for every location, every beekeeper's techniques and all. Please, you guys need to learn to not rely on what people are going to tell you at a conference or a Facebook group and all that. Don't always just follow the herd mentality, please. Be independent, be a critical thinking, and do your own experiments. I think that's going to help you a lot. Absolutely. I plan on doing the Demarest method. That's a swarm method, swarm control method. I have a video on that. On a hive this spring, I'm going to try Viroxan, oxalic acid treatment. Can I use that during the Demarest process? I don't see why not. However, please read the label for Viroxan and make sure, a lot of the treatments, they have to go in the brood area. They have to be on, sometimes they say FOB, frames of bees. So you have to kind of know the label really well and follow that label. I'm in Abilene, Texas, getting my bee package next week, and then nuke 2 weeks after that. When is the best time to treat for mites? And I'll see you in Abilene in June. Yeah, looking forward to speaking in Abilene, Texas in June. That'll be a lot of fun. Be sure and let me know, Angie, when you're there, who you are. I'd like to meet you. And any of you in the Texas area, put that on your calendar. That'd be good. I think it's June 21st. Maybe I can leave a little image here or something. But yeah, that'd be great. So when's the best time to treat for mites? Anytime. Absolutely. I think it's good probably when you get a package. They are broodless. And so if you're using something like a oxalic vapor, that's going to really knock the mites down. Sometimes if you treat a package, there's a potential that the treatment could cause them to abscond because they don't like being treated. They're getting used to a new home. They might fly away, all of them. I don't know if that's going to be the case. It may not happen. I don't like to treat packages because I want to get them settled down for a couple of weeks and then you can treat them. They still don't usually have much brood by then, capped over. But yeah, you can do that anytime. Look forward to seeing you in June. Hey, Bob, I'm getting my first 3-pound package of bees next month here in Kentucky. Should I put them in a 5-frame nuke with drawn frames or put them in a deep with drawn frames? Thanks for all your help. I mentioned that earlier. It doesn't hurt to put them in a 5-frame nuke. Just got to play with them a little bit more. You got to move them around a little bit more. If you're an inexperienced beekeeper, brand new, then it increases a slight increase that you might kill your queen during all this transferring from the 5-frame nuke box back over to the 10-frame box. There's always a chance. It's like if you have to have surgery or a procedure, you always sign these papers that says there's always a chance of an infection. There's always a chance of something, right? So anytime you do more manipulation of your bees, there's a chance something can go wrong. Other than that, yeah, if you're careful, that should really work out well for you. All of these questions came from my live stream last night. I hope you watch it. If you didn't get a chance to see my live stream, it's all about 10 things that I learned the hard way and maybe you don't have to once you watch this video. I'll see you guys over there.